It's Cy Blackburn here, and today what I want to do is show you how to create coaching programs which rock, which clients love, regardless of your niche, regardless of your experience as a coach, regardless of the type of client that you have coming in, and most importantly, regardless of whether the client actually gets the end result of your program or not, they still love you. Now, while that's a bold promise, watch to the end of this video and you will get an insight which I promise you will change the way that you view creating your programs going forward. So let's talk a little bit about what customer happiness means, what client happiness means. How do you know if a client is happy with a program? Well, it could be that they got an end result, right? It could be that, they felt particularly connected with you. And really, when you ask that question, how do you know whether your program is great or not? It becomes very difficult to actually ascertain what that is. Now, a widely used metric of how to tell how good your program is a concept called NPS, right? And it stands for Net Promoter Score. And what this means is it's a simple question, a single question that you send out to your client base. And that question goes, how likely are you to refer my product or my company to a friend or family member? And you rate them from 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being absolutely. And statistically, you can look this up, but this is really for another video. That is the most valid way of checking how good you're doing as a product. Now, when it comes to our product lines, what we strive for is an NPS score of 8 and above, which means that on average, over the course of all of our clients, we get an average ranking every month of 8 and above. Now, what's interesting about this is regardless of whether somebody does the work on your product, regardless of who they are, what country they're from, what gender they're based in, the NPS stays the same. So how do you create that kind of consistency across your product? And that's what you're going to get at the end of the video. Now, let's kind of backtrack a little bit and start going through, well, what does it mean for a client to be happy? What is happiness? Now, the idea of happiness is very subjective, right, from person to person, but there are certain philosophies that kind of allude to what happiness is. Now, there was a philosophy which was told to me when I was backpacking with my girlfriend, now wife, we have a 2-year-old son as of this video, in Myanmar, which was called Burma back then. And we were traveling around. If you've ever been to Burma, it's a real magical place, and if you haven't gone, please do make it your next trip to Asia because it is unbelievable. It is a place which is untouched by tourism for the most part right now, so check it out before it actually gets destroyed by it. And Burma itself, Myanmar itself, it's a Buddhist nation, right? So it's filled with temples and pagodas and all of that really lovely, magical kind of architecture that's actually there. And so as we were traveling through this country, I ended up, having some tea with a monk. And the conversation turned to, well, what in Buddhism counts as happiness? Right? And what he told me really just changed the way that I thought about what happiness was, and it changed the way that I ran our coaching business as well, and ultimately got our net promoter scores from a kind of 5 to 6 to an 8 to a 9 on average, right? And we have many more clients now than we used to have back then, and it was purely because of the advice that this one monk gave me. He said that what we believe happiness is reality minus expectations. Now, very simple formula. Happiness equals reality minus expectations. And so what that essentially says is if you have an expectation that the reality that you're going to get is better than what the reality ends up being, you're unhappy. However, if your expectations are that, the reality is not going to be that great and you end up having a great reality, the expectations are lower than the reality, therefore you are happy. So think about it a little bit like you kind of prime your kids that this Christmas there really isn't going to be, a gift for them. And it's going to be a rubbish gift and all that. So their expectations are kind of set low. And then on Christmas Day, they peel out a box and they open a PlayStation 5. What do you think that would do for them? They would be ecstatic, right? Because the reality that ended up occurring was far above their expectations. So this concept has been told again and again in the coaching space. It says under promise and over deliver. But when you really go into it, what the hell does that even mean to under promise and over deliver? Does it mean that you give extra modules on your coaching program, free coaching, access to you one-on-one? Well, the thing is, a lot of these things are very subjective as to how valuable they actually are in terms of coaching. Remember, what a client signs up for with you is an end outcome, an end result. That's what they actually sign up for. So anything that supports that end outcome and end result may not necessarily fall into you exceeding expectations with the reality. So then the question kind of comes back as to what does? How do you exceed the expectations with the reality that you present? And it comes down to the question of what is value. Because the greater the value of your program in the client's mind, the greater the reality, and if obviously the expectations are set low, the more happy people will be. Now, if you come on to any of our Q&A sessions or any of our programs and you speak to other clients, you'll start to see a pattern, is that they always say that we over-deliver. Now, it's not necessarily that we over-deliver, but that the program is designed in a way for the client to feel the value that we provide. And I'll tell you a secret about how we do it and how we create these coaching programs by design. Every time somebody comes into our coaching program, we give them an intake form. We ask them what their birthday is, their anniversary. We ask them what their favorite food and drink and kind of top 10 bucket list dreams that they have for themselves are. And we keep that information, right? All of the information of our clients. And guess what happens? When their birthday comes around, all of a sudden they get a gift from us and it happens to be their favorite drink. Or what happens when they have a death in the family? They get flowers sent to their doorstep from us, right? All of these little touches based on that original intake form go to the client without the client expecting it, without the client even wanting it. And the key to it is it doesn't necessarily have to be related to the coaching program. It can be stuff which is outside of the program that you offer and you deliver to your client. But from a client's perspective, they were totally unexpected. And from a client's perspective, think about it this way, right? We had a client, I remember about a year ago, whose father died, and a week went by and I didn't even know that this had happened, but she received flowers on her doorstep, and it just, in her words, you can see a case study, if you follow us any further, just touched her heart, because nobody else had done that, but we had, right? And it's not that I said, hey, give her flowers. It was that it was inbuilt into the model, that when an important event happens in their life, make sure that we send them something. Make sure that we send them some kind of symbolic gesture to show that we care, whether that's a birthday, an anniversary, whether that's a win, right? If they get their first client, we send them a cherry pie and we say, hey, you just popped your cherry. When they go through the program and they're delivering certain parts of the module, we could send them a microphone which is going to help improve their delivery. Right? All of these things get inbuilt into the program and ultimately deliver far beyond what they originally bought into. So happiness becomes something that is designed into the program. And it all starts with a very simple intake form with a set of questions. What's your birthday, your anniversary, favorite food, favorite drink, bucket list ideas? That's all it takes. And all it takes is for you to send a gift, $10, $15 tops, from a milestone that happens in their life. And that milestone is good or bad. It doesn't matter, but it's a milestone. And that will show them that you cared. Now, before we wrap up this video, I've got a question for you. If you take this concept, happiness equals reality minus expectations, and you apply it to your coaching program, how would that change what you do? And remember, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to add more modules or do a better job at presenting, because again, all of that is ultimately subjective. Some people could like the way you present, others could not. Right? But what else would you add? The little trinkets, the little monumental milestones which make somebody feel that they are cared for with you. Now, the beauty is, if you are a coach and you are running a program or product, it's likely that you charge $1,000, $2,000 plus for that program, for that product, which gives you what we call a margin to work with, a play margin. And if you dedicate, let's say you charge $2,000, just $100 or $150 of that $2,000 that you charge, and all that $100 or $150 goes into celebrating the client when they achieve certain milestones, the client will love you forever. What we find is 50% of our clients cross-sell, means that they buy another product with us. Industry standard, by the way, is about 15 to 20%. What we find in terms of renewals, we get about a 65% renewal rate. Industry standards on renewals for subscription coaching programs are less than 20. 10 is kind of the average, 20 if you are unbelievable, right? We get over 60% renewal rates. And I can promise you, it's not because of the coaching program. It's not because of, me being any kind of presenter or them particularly liking our content. It is because of the other things that we do, the additions that we add. So take a look at your coaching program and ask yourself, how can you innovate on it to allow for you to celebrate a client's milestones? What could that be? And if you're doing more of an information product or a low ticket product, what could you offer there that doesn't necessarily cost you anything, because you may not have the margins to work with, but the client would love? And it could be free access to another product if they achieve a certain milestone within what they do with you. So really go through, redesign your coaching programs, and I promise you, you'll get better renewal rates, you will get more money through cross-sells, people buying other programs as well, and your clients will love you and rave about you consistently. My name's Cy Blackburn, and I'm going to see you in the next video where we're going to be talking about the same concept, but how it applies to your team, how it applies to any affiliate or joint venture partners as well. So do stay tuned and make sure that you check out that next video. I'll see you soon.